Hello everyone, I am Laethas and welcome back to another video, and today I have my manga haul for the month of January 2018, the very first manga haul of the new year. And without further ado, let's just get right into the haul. First up, I picked up the first volume of Unmagical Girl, put out by, 7 Seas. Now, I was really anticipating this title when it, when I heard about it and sort of read a little bit into it because it sounded very interesting. It sounded like the opposite of sort of an isekai, sort of reminiscent of maybe the devil is a part-timer. And so I did read this and I did find it to be entertaining. I do feel like it could have executed its premise a lot better than it did. But I would still recommend picking it up if it sounds interesting to you. Yeah, I was slightly underwhelmed, but I still enjoyed the volume as a whole, and I do plan on picking up the second volume that is going to be coming out. But first off, we have Unmagical Girl Volume 1. And next up, I picked up the final 2 volumes of Doll by Mitsukazu Mihara. Very excited to have these so I can finally get into the series. I've been waiting to pick up the whole series before I get into it, but yeah, if this is anything like either Icy and a Sunflower or Beautiful People, I'm going to really enjoy this series. But yeah, very happy to pick these 2 volumes up, and they are put out by Tokyo Pop, but I do believe these are the Right Stuff print-on-demand editions, because the pages are way nicer than Tokyo Pop paper normally is, and they're super white, and they were at the Right Stuff print-on-demand price point, so, you know, it's one of those titles. I think Future Diary is also there as well, so the Future Diary volumes won't be going out of print, but, yeah, nice to have these, and pretty happy that it is on the, or at least I think it's on the print-on-demand, so I know it won't be going out of print. Or, well, I don't really care as much now because I have this whole series, so I wouldn't have to worry about it anyway, but I didn't have to worry about it initially. Yeah, moving on to the next title, I picked up a single volume series put out by Viz Media, and that is Portis. This is a horror title by Jun Abe. Now, I did read this, and I thought it was much better than Shiver, but overall, after having read this, I think I've just come to the conclusion that horror manga just isn't my thing. I don't enjoy it a whole lot, you know, was certainly positive for me, but nothing I would go out of my way to pick up. If you are a horror fan, though, then I imagine that this is one for you to pick up. Just after reading this, I think I'm just going to stay away from most horror titles, unless a lot of people tell me that one in particular is especially amazing, even if you don't particularly enjoy the genre. But yeah, if you're a horror fan, I would recommend this. Fun single volume, nothing amazing, but I did enjoy it to a degree, but I think I'm just going to stick away from horror titles going forward. And next up, I have the 4th volume of The Water Dragon's Bride. I haven't read this yet, just going to wait for the whole series to come out and binge it unless it gets really long. But I did enjoy the first volume, which is what I've read. And it's by Ray Toma, so I have confidence that she is going to write a good story, but Volume 4 of The Water Dragon's Bride. And next up, I have the 7th volume of 7th Garden. I'm gonna wait till the 8th volume comes out, then read 6, 7, and 8, which are the volumes I haven't read, because I know that's the volume that the series went on hiatus on, so just gonna wait till then read it. But volumes 1 through 5 I really enjoyed, but I will say that this is a series that is not for everyone, so keep that in mind. It does have some fan service and ecchi in it, so if you really find that distasteful or you don't like it a whole lot, then maybe stay clear, but as for me, I do enjoy the series quite a bit. And next up, I have a single volume series put out by Yen Press, and this is by Jun Mochizuki, and that is the same mangaka that wrote Pandora Hearts. I have not read it, but I'm thinking about getting into the series, but that would be Crimson Shell. Now, I have read this. I did enjoy it. There is a certain level of quality that this series has over some other series, but it's nothing amazing, but it is certainly very good, and I would definitely recommend picking it up. If you are a fan of this mangaka, I especially recommend it, but overall, it's a very fun, very good single volume series. Not going to blow your mind, but certainly enjoyable, and I would recommend picking it up. And next up, I have the first 3 volumes of Murcielago. Now, this is a series that I read the first volume, wasn't sure if I wanted to continue it, so I gave it 2 more volumes, and while it's not at the top of my priority list, I certainly want to continue reading the series because I do find it quite enjoyable, and it has enough curiosity and intrigue, or piqued my curiosity, my bad, that I want to continue reading it. Yeah, if you are a fan of like hyper-violent, or maybe like a police, well, not so much police procedural, more like super high-octane action, then this is a series I would recommend. Do note, it is sort of marketed as a Yuri, and that is because one of our main characters is a lesbian, but just because a character is a lesbian does not mean it is a Yuri, so I would say that, you know, the series is not a Yuri for you Yuri fans, so keep that in mind if you're going to pick this up, and you're a Yuri fan, that it is not really going to deliver a whole lot on that aspect, but if you like high-octane, over-the-top action, I would recommend picking this series up. And next up, I have the first 3 volumes, or all that is currently out, of The Case Study of Vani. This is also by Jun Mochizuki, and I have really been enjoying, or I've read all 3 of these volumes, and I did enjoy the series, so I'm going to be continuing to pick it up. But I'm probably just going to wait until the rest of it comes out to read any further. This series is one I would definitely recommend. If you're a fan of her other works, I'd recommend picking it up. And Yen Press has done a very nice job with the release quality of this series. And if you'll note, the volumes are really, really thick. So you do get a lot of story per volume, especially because it's somewhat dense in its sort of dialogue. Not to a large degree, but it takes me a little bit longer to get through these volumes than other volumes, but yeah, I definitely recommend picking this up, especially since it's just getting started, only these 3 volumes out right now, so you can catch up very quickly. Yeah, definitely recommend this series. And next up, I have the first volume of the 3-volume series Imperfect Girl. This is the manga based on the novel by Nisi Oisin. Now, I don't know anything about this, but except for sort of what I've read, like synopsis and stuff. But I'm just going to wait till all 3 volumes are out and then binge it. Yeah, it's a short 3-volume series put out by Vertical. Waiting, as I've said, to get all the volumes and binge it, but, you know, it's short and sweet, which is what I like. Short series are always a good thing, and this is the first volume of that series. And next up, I picked up the 3rd volume of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and this is one of my 4 fun series that I do enjoy reading in between my other sort of more serious driven works, just because it's a fun action sort of comedy series. If you're looking for one of those, or you're a fan of isekai, I would definitely recommend picking this one up. It's very fun, very enjoyable, don't have to think too hard, and just sort of enjoy it. Not sure if I'm going to pick up the light novel, probably not going to, but the manga is good enough for me, and I have been enjoying it, and I will probably just, unlike what I typically do, I'm probably just going to read these volume to volume, or 2 volumes at a time, just because it is more of just a fun, read it and enjoy it type series. But That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Volume 3. And next up, I picked up the first volume of Fire Punch, which is just newly releasing. Now, the first chapter is very all over the place, and is incredibly chaotic, and super fast-paced, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, you know, keep that in mind. And this volume overall as a whole was very sort of scattered and all over the place. Not sure if I'm going to pick up more of the volumes. I'm probably going to read some scans of the newer chapters, or of the 2nd volume chapters, to see if I'm going to continue. Because it wasn't amazing. It had a little bit of, you know, intrigue in it. But overall, it's not super amazing. I would encourage you to sort of read a little bit into the series before making a purchase. Yeah, it's not the greatest, and unfortunately, the release quality is very poor. I don't know if this is Viz doing, like, packaging or something like that, maybe retail issues, but my volume is, like, really warped. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's, like, it's not creased, but, like, the pages, like, are bent and, like, wiggly more so than is typical of a volume, so that's kind of upsetting. And the release quality overall for being a SIG volume is really low. Like, it's even worse than the Tokyo Ghoul volumes, so that's a pretty big negative. Yeah, that is the first volume of Fire Punch. I would recommend reading the series, or reading into the series a little bit before going into a purchase, because it's not amazing, and so I would just sort of be wary, especially since this was one of the more, I want to say, talked about, or sort of, you know, widespread sort of interest in the series, I want to say. But yeah, I'd be cautious with this one. It's not dropped for me yet, but it's not guaranteed that I'm going to be continuing to pick up the volumes. But first volume of Fire Punch. And next up, I have the complete series, or all-in-one edition of Ruby. This is, of course, based on the Rooster Teeth animated series, and this is more, like, I haven't seen Ruby, so that may have impacted my enjoyment, either in a positive way or a negative way, I don't really know. But this was just, I enjoyed it. It was a fun read, sort of like lore, I guess, or just a bunch of character backstories that I found interesting, and it has intrigued me on Ruby and has gotten me to sort of think about checking it out as sort of a higher priority. But I really enjoyed this. If you're interested in sort of what Ruby is, then I would recommend picking this up. I certainly enjoyed it, and I thought it was a good time. And last up for this haul, I really enjoyed the first 2 volumes of this series, so I decided to pick up what all was out so far, which is sort of up-to-date, and up-to-date with the Japanese release as well. So it's going to be a while before I get any more volumes, but that would be Rubel Blocks, and this is Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5, Volume 6, Volume 7. Oh, this might go out of frame. We will see in a little bit. Volume 8, and it does look like it's going to go out of frame. So, you know what? Volume 9. I'm just going to hold it right there. But, yeah, I've been really enjoying this series. I've read all of these volumes. Towards the later half, like volumes, I want to say 7 through 9, I feel it's gotten weaker. Just sort of what direction the author took with some of the characters. But you know, it's still very good, and the first, I want to say, 6 volumes are still very, very solid, and I heavily enjoyed those volumes. It was one of those very few series that I could read sort of non-stop without caring and not needing to take a break, so that is sort of a testament to how much I enjoyed the series, and I definitely recommend checking it out unless you do not like violence or sort of graphic material, because there are certain scenes that are quite graphic. If you liked Berserk, I would recommend checking this series out. It's as I've said in my first impressions video, it's not like Berserk, but if you do like Berserk, then I do think you'll enjoy this series, and that is what Base Jalarin said, and I wholeheartedly agree with her. But I really enjoyed this series. Can't wait for more volumes to come out. Not sure if it's moving towards an end. I would kind of be disappointed if it ended with the arc that it's going for. I hope it does a shift to a different arc and continues on, because this current arc I don't feel is that good because of sort of how the characters are working out. Yeah, I really enjoyed this series. Definitely recommend you picking it up. But yeah, that will do it for this January 2018 manga haul. Not as much manga as I typically get, but we are at the tail, or we're just coming off of the holiday season, and trying not to spend as much money on manga. Yeah, had a great time last year, and hopefully this year goes fantastic. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you would like or ask questions on any of the series that are here, or you would like to give your opinions on them, leave those in the comments down below, as well as any other types of questions, comments, concerns, that kind of thing. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and share. If you'd like to keep up to date with all of my content, you can hit that subscribe button. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, there's a link to that in the description. But anyway, that will be all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am Laethas. Goodbye.